Hello and welcome to another episode of Staying Power, a show that is all about building a better life. And every week we come together to talk about one small element of what it means to build a better life, and we hope that it resonates with you just as it resonates with us. And by we, I mean myself, JDK Winnikin, and my friend, my colleague, my business partner. Yeah. So many different things. But first and foremost, my dear, dear friend, Ashley Kniebel. Hi, Ashley. How are you?
Hi. I'm doing great.
Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing well. I'm glad we're both in a really good mood. To the point where we're laughing coming on the air, which is good. So good day.
It's a great day.
Yep, it is. So let's just jump right into it. So today, everybody, we are going to be talking about what happens when convenience starts to replace connection. And by that, we're talking about tech. We're going to talk about technology today and the threats that technology has to how we can better connect with ourselves and other people. Now, that may not be a new topic, right, for a lot of you. There's certainly a lot of conversation about it, but we're hoping that the way we talk about it kind of simplifies it a little bit and that some element of this resonates with you a little bit. We're going to take a look at how tech kind of shapes our habits, our nervous systems, and we're going to share some practical ways where we can kind of reclaim a sense of ourselves in a world of pings, swipes, screens, all that. So while we're talking about this, be thinking about one small way that you'd like to reclaim some connection in your life lately and kind of go less tech, more presence without pretending that tech is something you can just get rid of, right?
Sure.
Because we're kind of stuck.
Not going anywhere.
Yeah, it's not going anywhere. Okay, but as before we do that, and it actually will be related to it, let's go ahead and surprise everybody out of the gate, Ashley.
Oh, yeah?
By doing our 2-minute segment that we always do.
We haven't done it in the front end
in a long time. We haven't done it in the front end in a long time.
Right.
And this week, this 2 minutes is going to be 2 minutes of terror where Ashley and I each take a couple minutes to talk about something from the last week that terrified us. Here we go. 2 minutes of terror. All right, Ashley, what do you got?
I feel like it's been so long since we've done it. I forgot what it sounded like.
I know.
I'm like, what is that noise? Okay. Well, mine's embarrassing to admit, but here we are in the vein of vulnerability. So last week I had a meeting and it kind of ended not so great. And I immediately pivoted and went into a conversation with my mom. And I did not really give myself any moment in between those two experiences to take a deep breath and step down from one thing and into the other. And so I ended up coming in with like an attitude and I was stressed and I took it out on my poor mom who did not deserve any of that.
Oh.
I felt really bad. We apologize. It's all good now. But I walked away from that and I went home and I felt like such garbage.
Oh,
because I was like, she didn't deserve any of that. Yeah. You know, she didn't do anything wrong. And I was just not in a cleared headspace. Yeah. And so it was rough. I felt really bad. Like I said, we made up all is good, but haven't we all done that?
Yeah, we have. The power of the pause sometimes can be tough, particularly if you were going 100 miles an hour. It sounds like you were going really fast that day.
Yeah, it was a fast day, and I didn't say anything like rude to her or anything. It wasn't that bad, but my tonality, and I was pretty gruff and short, and that was not anything from her. So anyways.
I've heard that side of you from time to time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well.
But we all have that. Right? And it's never pleasant for somebody on the other end, particularly when they're not.
Yeah. Especially when they're not expecting it.
Right.
They're like, wow.
Nowhere.
Calm it down. Try decaf. Anyways.
Try decaf. Okay.
What do you got?
Well, mine is actually tech related. So it kind of fits into what we're going to talk about today. I was a almost victim of a a spoof scam on my cell phone.
Okay.
One of those AI things that mimics a friend or a loved one, a voice, a familiar voice.
What?
Yeah. It's a long story. I'll spare everybody the details, but it's essentially a call that reaches out to you and it pretends to be somebody you know and is looking for money for the most part. But the setup was, this was a friend of mine I hadn't heard from in a little while, and I got this message and a call back where he said his wife had been in an accident. And I know his wife pretty well. So I was shocked. I was like, oh, no.
You had just been in an accident, so you're like, what's going on?
Right. And so I was, and in retrospect, everything was really vague.
Sure.
Right? Really vague. And then when he asked for money, I'm like, and so then I thought immediately this might be a scam. So I went to my phone, texted my buddy while I'm on the phone with this with this voice. said, how's it going? He goes, oh, I'm all stuck at work. It's just same as usual. I'm like, okay. All right,
I didn't know that was a thing today.
It is a thing.
Really?
It is a thing. Yeah, everybody be careful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well.
Yeah. What's interesting is the articles I read about it after that indicate that those things tend to target the elderly.
Of course I was just going to say the poor older people.
Exactly. So
they don't know better.
So and so on one hand, a good warning for everybody paying attention to that, particularly, if you have elderly parents or people you're looking after. But then also, does that mean I'm elderly? I don't know.
Well,
that was the other thing.
I didn't say it.
Everybody else was thinking it.
That's right.
So yeah, right, exactly. Thanks, Eric. All right. So it was a technology terror, right? Worked out okay, but
techie terror.
We are talking about technology today. And Ashley, again, this was something that came up in a conversation you and I had about this, and we started talking about it. And do you remember the roots of this when we started talking about this? It was a little while ago. Do you remember the roots?
I don't know if I remember the exact, but I do remember an example, and I think it's because I was running an errand. Correct me if this doesn't sound right, but I was running an errand. I was going to the bank, and people in my circle were like, you can just do that all online or through the app or whatnot. And I'm like, yeah, I know. And they're like, well, why don't you just do that? It saves time. I'm like, because I happen to actually enjoy building connection and relationships with the people at the bank. And where your money's at is probably a good place to have good relationships with people.
Oh, that's a good point.
Just saying. And, I'm like, I glean something positive when I go to the bank and talk with the tellers. And no surprise, everyone in the whole bank knows me because I'm very friendly and outgoing and I say hi to everybody.
And you go in regularly.
I do go in regularly. And yes, I could save time. But then I asked them, would I really gain something substantially significant if I saved time and used the convenience of technology as opposed to the 15-minute trip it's going to take me to go do that? Maybe, depending on what I could put towards that. But overall, when I weigh out the value of it, I'd prefer the human connection.
Right. And of course, the presumption that they're making, saying it'll save you a lot of time, is that somehow that is the best way to structure your time. Make sure you're giving yourself all the time to do all the kind of work you must do, rather than recognize that taking that 15 minutes might actually be really good on a lot of fronts.
Yeah.
You're
going for a walk,
you're getting outside of your normal, your normal routine. Talking with other people. I love that point, what you said about these are the people that handle your money. Might be a good idea to be on personal terms with them. It's amazing how profound that sounds right now. Right. In these technologically focused times. But, it's very common. What your coworkers were saying or your friends were saying is really that we think that because we have so many things that can make things more convenient, that we should, by definition, gravitate towards convenience without recognizing that it can actually sacrifice connection. And it can actually create false senses of connection. Right.
Yep.
So, yeah. So if you're wondering about this, think about these possibilities. So when was the last time any of you listening, or you, Ashley, texted somebody in the same room? You ever done that?
Well, yes, but usually I'm joking about somebody else sitting in the room.
Right. Right. We've all done that probably, right?
But yes.
Yeah. But that's one, or have you ever told Siri or Alexa, thank you?
I mean, I do as a joke. Because you
forgot they weren't a person?
Well, I remember they're people, but it is kind of funny how we get in these habits, right? And I mean, yes, I say as a joke, but I have observed people who have done it and then realized oh, that's right. And I'm like, well, I guess good for you for trying to be nice and have manners, but you look stupid.
Well, or if you use AI, right? Do you thank the AI robot for its work? A friend of mine does and is unapologetic, and she says that's because when machines all take over, she wants them to remember that she was really polite, which I thought was hilarious.
She was the one.
Which I thought was hilarious.
I mean, might be a valid point.
And so to me, it's not a question of, some people that the conversation becomes, we should just get away from tech. That's not realistic. It's not practical, right? And, unless you're going to go off the grid, literally up in Alaska or the Arctic Circle or somewhere else, which, hey, you do you, but guaranteed you're not listening to this show if you do that. For those of you who are in range and aren't doing that, right, it's about a relationship with technology. And as so often is the case in what we talk about, Ashley. It's not about whatever the issue is. It's about how we're understanding it, how we're framing it, and how we're choosing to approach it, which is really what we're going to talk about, right, with this today.
You know, well, I have a slight observation that
slight one?
This one was slight. Yeah, I didn't give too much thought about it. It just...
Okay.
Is that funny?
No, it is.
It's so
great.
funny. You're dying over there.
I know, it's
wow.
great because that's just funny. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Anyways, because I was thinking about the people that mentioned that specifically to me, that like, why don't you do the alternative convenience because it'll save you time? And in my head, I'm like, all right, well, what would I be using that time for? What would they be using that time for? And oddly, no offense to them, but they're like avid scrollers and swipers on social media. So I'm like, if this were you, would you just be saving more time so then you can just spend it on technology doing brainless activity?
That's a great point.
I do not.
Right.
I don't spend a lot of time scrolling around on all the apps because I have other things to do. But it just made me laugh at like, okay, the source of where this is coming from, thanks for looking out for me, I guess. But
not really.
It's not. And what would you be doing with your extra time?
Not really. Yeah, it underlies this thing that sometimes like, oh, just the effort itself is a problem.
Well, that's it. I'm like, are you tired of the idea of putting an effort of walking to the bank?
That's probably more what it is.
Probably. I mean,
right.
Anyways, not
Absolutely.
to like point some
and
fingers.
there's a bunch, and I know we came up with a list of several of them. But for example, we've all done this, right? Instead of really connecting with somebody and calling them, we'll send them a DM or we'll send a text. Study after study shows that young people today if they're having hard conversations at all, they're doing it over text, right? Teenage breakups over text, right? Over DMs.
Adult breakups,
right? Adult
over
breakups,
text.
over that, right? Yeah, exactly. All those kinds of things. So sending a DM instead of calling. That small talk you talked about at the bank or at the grocery store, right? Or wherever you're going, just in your daily life, skipping the small talk with a delivery person or something like that, just for the sake of something else, right? Not even acknowledging that person's there. AI is a big one, right? Using AI to craft things like, and I've seen this happen, to craft email responses for a difficult conversation or even texts, that kind of thing. Or using AI instead of journaling, right? Or sitting down and kind of reflecting, composing thoughts on what's going on. I know people who go to AI for all that. And it's not that it's necessarily bad by itself, right? But if it's replacing the self-examination, right? What can something else tell me about myself rather than what I can tell myself about myself? Then there might be a challenge there. So you highlighted the key tension really well. Convenience is supposed to save us time, but what are we doing with that time?
Right.
Right. Yeah. It's worthwhile. And I have to say, you are extraordinarily disciplined when it comes to social media.
I am?
You are.
Oh.
You are.
Why do you say that?
Because I've noticed it. Well, we spend enough time together. I know what you're doing. And I also know when you respond to stuff on social media that I've responded to, it's always at similar times. Right? So I can tell you have it like carved out.
My
like
windows.
You have your windows when you're going to do that. And of course you do your morning posts all the time.
Sure.
Right? And so those are always there. But then you're usually answering the stuff that I send out to you around lunchtime. And then if you respond to any of the idiocy that I send you on, the reels and stuff that I like, you're one of my people.
My inbox is piling up.
Yeah.
Like,
if you usually respond to those in the evening.
Yeah.
That's usually when they are. So, yeah. And so you're extraordinarily disciplined with that. And I think that's one reason why you notice all these things the way you do. I'm more of a scroller than you are. I am.
It's okay.
I'm also,
depending on what you're scrolling on.
But I also have things in place where I do keep that limited as well because I have a lot of stuff going on.
Well, and there are benefits to some of the technology out there where you can put limitations on it or you can measure this, right?
Yeah.
So there are good things about it that can measure and limit if you're really trying to reduce and compartmentalize your time spent on various platforms and whatnot. And it's like you said, it's not all bad. It's certainly, there's a lot of benefits that come from it and things that can be helpful. But
of course,
it just, sometimes I think we're so used to having these little conveniences and shortcuts and things that you kind of forget what's the point of the shortcut.
That's great. That's a great way to put it. What's the point of the shortcut? When really what tech could be doing, if we reframed it a certain way, will be helping us to better connect, right? To intentionally connect and to do so in for longer periods of time than the 30-second, mentality we have. And also at a more quality level. It can actually do that. And the gifts of that are many. It is wonderful to be able to go on FaceTime or Zoom or something with people that are on the other side of the world.
Oh yeah.
Right? Or just in the next state over who you don't normally get to see. You can actually look in their face and talk to them. But again, that's more of a connective face-to-face thing. And even with that, and Zoom, of course, with meetings, you could be multitasking. But when it comes to like connecting with another person, that's a wonderful thing. I remember during COVID, that first 6 months or so, when everybody was trying to figure out what to do, everybody was having like online Zoom happy hours with their friends, like pulling people all together, which was kind of this cool use of technology in a way where everybody was acknowledging we're all in kind of the same situation here. We're all fearful. We're all uncertain. And yet we're going to reach out and talk to the people that we're closest to or that we haven't talked to in a while and had conversations. And I know from my point of view, I reconnected with a few people that I'm in much better contact with now because of that. But it still requires technology because these people are all in different parts of the country and different parts of the world. So we're not going to be saying today, this is, we should be chucking out, technology. This is more about what it can do in a positive way as well as a negative way. And a lot of the conversations are about the negative. But when we come back from our first break, let's talk a little bit, Ashley, about the neuroscience behind this and what this does. Just a few points and kind of build off of that. And then we're going to wrap up the show today with a lot of practical thoughts that Ashley and I put together on some things that we can do, we can try out right away. And we're going to encourage all of you, because we're going to do it, to pick one or two of those things and try them out for the next week and see what that feels like. So come on back here on Staying Power in just a minute.
Are you ready to discover remarkable stories of resilience and cultural connection? This is Diaspora, a show sharing the journeys of first-generation immigrants from the Indian subcontinent now building their lives in North America. Inspiring, insightful, and always engaging, Diaspora offers a unique perspective on the immigrant experience. Join me, Aditya Mehta, my guests, on the Diaspora Show every Wednesday at 2 p.m. right here on KKNW.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hi.
I know, I just came in barreling out of the break. Thanks for joining us here today on Staying Power. And thank you for joining us every time on Staying Power. And if you happen to be catching us live right now on 1150 AM KKNW here in Seattle, really happy to have you here and hope you're having a great day. If you're catching this as a podcast, and you can get it wherever you get your podcasts, we also hope you're having a great day or evening or early morning or whatever it might be, wherever you happen to be. And thank you so much for subscribing and leaving us a review. We truly appreciate it. You can also watch every episode of Staying Power now on our live stream on our YouTube channel, as well as on Instagram. And you can find in the show notes at all those different locations I just mentioned, all the ways you can get in touch with us, in particular our email, stayingpowershow@gmail.com, and also our Instagram feeds for the show. And we got a lot more stuff coming up. So we'll be talking about some more things here in the future. So thank you so much for that. Here to talk about a good technology, right? Ashley?
Right.
Everything that's just right there. All right. But we're talking about what this can do when technology has kind of isolated us out and we're gravitating more towards convenience and isolation than we are with connection and kind of vibrancy in life. So, of course, Ashley, you know what I like to do when we do all this kind of stuff. I like to go to the science.
Yes, you do. You're very good at it.
I like it.
That's why I let you do all of it.
I like it. It's fun. and because I find it fascinating and neuroplasticity and neuroscience tells us a lot. We're learning more and more literally on a day-by-day basis of what technology does and does not do in the brain and therefore in our bodies. And of course, I like to talk about somatic stuff having to do with the body. The coaching that we do is based in ventral vagal theory and things like that about the importance of breathing, getting connected with that flow state and the fight, flight, or freeze response, all of that. And so what we do know from that, just collectively speaking, is that we thrive as individuals and as groups of people when we have face-to-face interaction, when we experience hearing and seeing, actually, people's vocal tone, right, in combination with their facial expression, eye contact, and physical presence. All the things about being in the physical presence of someone else, everything I just mentioned, all works together to give our senses a good read on the situation that we're in and help us understand, are we sitting with someone whose company we enjoy or don't enjoy or need to move away from? These are the things that come in our hard wiring, in our sociability, and in our physiology. And so we already know that. And so if we're texting instead of calling, if we're, not going down to the bank and having human contact and just doing it online, it might save us some time, but you do that time and time and time again with multiple things, multiple times over multiple days, multiple weeks. You do create new neural pathways in the brain that affect our neurology and our physiology, right? And so all of that fits together. So we're not just talking about something where we're going, oh, technology is bad. We're talking about the habits it can build that can be tough to step away from. So our social engagement system is dependent in a healthy way on the physical presence of people. Face-to-face interactions, they also regulate our nervous systems. Like, think about when you've looked forward to seeing somebody and you see them and you sit down with them and it's like, oh, there they are, right? There's a settling of those things. And you could have talked to them on the phone every single day for the last however long, and you get excited about it, right? So, and what this does is actually it increases the oxytocin in the brain and it lowers cortisol, this type of stuff. So it raises the good stuff, lowers the bad stuff, right? So what is it then about convenience, or let's give it another word, distraction, right? That makes it so seductive, do you think, on the science side?
Such a word to use.
Yeah,
you really think it's seductive?
Can be, particularly when we're talking about chemicals in the brain, because what it does do is what tech does.
Sure.
Taps into our dopamine centers in the brain.
Yeah. I mean, it gives you like a real quick hit, right?
Yep.
And then you want more and more and more. And I mean, our society is so built now around little pings. You get how many notifications? I would challenge anybody, turn off your notifications for a full 24 hours and see if you just lose yourself.
Your mind?
Yes.
You almost said something else.
I did. Can't say that. Lose yourself.
Eric would have caught it.
He would have. He's quick. But I mean, people want to get that constant notification, or they haven't gotten one, and so they log into whatever it is that they're looking for, and they're like, oh, is there anything new? We want to see like the little red flags on the icons. You want to hear the pings. You want to know someone's giving you attention constantly.
Yep.
And it is amazing when you don't get that. You feel such a lack of it, and it's just teaching you to enjoy something that's really shallow behavior. Yeah. Which is also then allowing you to lower your standards significantly.
It is, and it builds up your bandwidth with other stuff, right? Rather than stuff that might have more depth.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if anyone ever remembers writing notes to people. Way back in the day, they would write letters and mail them, and that was your form of communication. And how exciting was it
when you got one?
When you got one, and it wasn't a bill, and it wasn't junk mail. It was like something of worth and value from someone that matters to you, and it's in their handwriting and their chosen words from their own brain and no AI, because it had so much value in it, because it was all them.
Yep.
And nowadays we get responses, like you said earlier, that you can tell are AI generated.
Right.
And there is no value. I'm like, I don't even want to read it or listen to it because I know it wasn't you.
Right.
And the fact that you shortcutted it so much. Now, some people might be doing that because they're like, I need some inspiration. Okay, great. Use it as inspiration. Don't use it as replacement, though.
Right. And we can also use, that same type of thing. How many times do you get messages back from somebody, you're telling them something on text, and you get like the thumbs up emoji back?
Yeah, that's rude.
It's like, you're like, okay, they're sort of listening, but they're really wanting to give the impression that they're there, but they really aren't. And I think we can pick up on those things, right?
Is that when people respond with the laugh out loud?
Yeah.
And they're like, we're not laughing at anything.
We're not laughing at anything. LOL.
No,
LOL. Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
Just a defaulted response.
Well, yeah. And of course, all these things, as I mentioned earlier, they start to compound, right? And in social media, that's an algorithm. And the algorithm picks up on what we're looking at and continues to feed us that, right? And it kind of takes me back to the old scientific things with the rats, where they tap on the food source that's the most easily available to them and the most addictive, and they keep going back to it, even until it's detrimental to them. Now, that's an extreme example, but it's not that extreme. Considering there's entire books being written about what social media and smartphones are doing to younger generations. Jonathan Haidt's book, The Anxious Generation, which is a New York Times bestseller, digs into that. And it's a sobering look at what phones and social media is designed to do to how we think, how we feel, how we respond to things, and the neuroscience behind it that is in part embedded into the technology, right, to make it as seductive as possible is profound.
Well, and I'm just going to plug our own show for a moment here because I feel like the number one theme of comments and commentary we hear from our listeners is how real our conversations are, how authentic, how vulnerable, how honest and true they are. And because you and I spend time in conversation, connecting. We don't always meet online. We meet in person when we can. And I was thinking back what you were saying in the last segment, how like immediately when COVID happened, we all hopped on Zoom. Everyone's doing like little, online get-togethers, whatnot. And then when things started to open up, it was like insane.
Yeah.
People were having so many parties. Everyone was so excited to go out and talk. And you were willing to talk to people you don't even know because you just want to connect so bad with people. And look at what's happened since then. Everything's gotten really convenient because a lot of our technology has evolved in these last 5 years, 4 years since then. And now there's so much less connection. People are so much more back to isolation or automation or
polarization. Depending on what we're talking about.
And sadly, I have been in conversation with people where I'm like, there is no depth behind you because you haven't evolved yourself, because you have chosen to use all these conveniences instead of having a personal connection with another person.
Yeah.
It's been so long since you've had to come up with your own emotions and your own thoughts. And now people like our stuff because we are real and we don't use that.
We don't.
And it's not common anymore to find people like that.
Yeah, and I think it's becoming more and more common for people using the conveniences as a way to put up walls in front of themselves, right, and to wall themselves off from their own emotions. It's difficult, to feel anything other than the base emotions of fear, loneliness, sadness, that type of thing, when scrolling has so much in it that is designed to reinforce those feelings to begin with. And so, that's a great example kind of coming out of COVID and all of that, kind of numbing down. And of course, what it's done is that it reduces our ability, if we can't sense our own feelings, can't name them, don't know how to sit with them or be still with them and feel with them, we're not going to be able to see them and appreciate them and sit with them and be still with them in other people. And that means it's reducing empathy, right? And so there's little things in this, and we all do it. So we're not sitting here saying we're somehow exempt. But Ashley and I do have some intentionality in our communication that we should talk about. But for example, think of the things that drain our empathy taken together, which by themselves maybe aren't so bad, but when you add them, when you do them multiple times and add them with other things, add up. Multitasking during Zoom calls. Right?
JD probably has a comment. This poor gentleman has been on Zoom calls with me multiple times when I'm interrupted on our Zoom call, and I get so mad.
Yep.
Because I'm like, I am trying to connect with somebody here, and now you're interrupting this. And just because he's not sitting directly in front of me right now, he's on a screen, does not give you the right to interrupt.
Yeah, you get mad.
Yeah,
it's pretty
I
fun.
get very, but because I
feel
trying
so
to
honored,
connect.
and I feel so honored when you do that. It's great. It's great. Or having voice assistants now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Replacing real dialogue. And even when chatbots, when you're looking for something and a company says, "How can I help you?" I understand the convenience of it all, but you can't get a person in there, right?
I had that the other day.
Did you really?
I had to call. What was I calling for? I needed to order something, or replace something. And it was, I was having, that's what it was. I was having a software issue, and I needed to explain it to somebody and let them know all the things I have tried already.
Mm-hmm.
And it was on the phone, an AI bot, which sounded very much like a human. It was crazy. And I'm telling them, they're like, well, try this. And I'm like, I already tried that. And they, acknowledge the fact that I tried that, try this. And I'm like, you know what? If I could just talk to a human being, this would take me so much. It'd take me less time.
Yeah.
But this has taken me more time because you're not understanding what I'm trying to tell you. Eventually, I got to an actual person. And funny enough, we solved it quickly.
Of course.
We're getting there. AI's getting there. But
it
was not helpful.
No, it's not.
In that regard. I'm like, humans still need to connect on certain things.
They do. And one of the things, too, that AI is doing, and we kind of hinted at it earlier, is people are using it to kind of replace their own inward dialogues with themselves and then with other people as well. Neuroscience tells us the way we learn and the way we delve into depth into topics of debate or knowledge is not just by reading about it, but it's actually by engaging in it with other people. And that doesn't mean that there isn't a use for AI and technology and searching and things like that. It makes all that information a lot closer to our fingertips. Now, it gives us a flood of it, so we can't always filter through it very well. But it's not a substitute for working those things out or having those conversations with other people. Because when we speak these things aloud and we hear other people speaking them aloud, we tend to blend all these things together and we reach new understandings where we've added new stuff together from conversation, right? So that gets replaced. And of course, then, you mentioned earlier, all the other things that technology does. We can cut ourselves off from people pretty easily, right?
Yeah, because you can have everything shipped and delivered, and your groceries and your clothing and your utilities, everything you need. And you
can actually use technology by not using technology to send a message. So, getting ghosted, right? Whether it's in your dating life or by friend or a family member, all of a sudden they stop texting or all of a sudden they disappear. You don't hear from them for a while. The very act of them not using technology is a way that technology is being used to tell you something, right? Using emojis all the time instead of words.
Oh,
right?
Yeah. Yes.
That type of thing. And again, by themselves, in isolation, not the worst thing, but we don't do these things in isolation. We do them in repetitive patterns, right? And of course, these all have a physical impact on us and on our brains and on our bodies.
I mean, if you're going to, I guess that's why I was so convicted about this. Like, if you are going to use technology, use it for the really good, not the convenience. And we always use it for convenience. But like AI is fascinating. It can be extremely helpful. You can, if you're wanting to learn a new subject, you can tell it to create you a syllabus and give you homework to learn. Like, you can create it into a teacher to teach you things. Like, utilize it for that.
Yeah.
Utilize it to learn other things, but not to replace.
Yeah, and to not just take everything it gives you at face value. This is the only thing you should learn. I mean, that's good work. That's good rule anyway, right? No one news program, no one book, no one newspaper article is going to tell you every single thing you need to know. But out of convenience, right, we tend to go for what is my social media feed telling me in 30-second sound bites about what's going on in the world. And it's going to tell me that 50 different ways that are all familiar to what I already want to hear. It's part of the problem. So the physical feelings and the physical toll that this takes is significant. So, for example, all the studies I was looking at, Ashley, talked about there's significant physical...
And you were using technology to look at these?
Some of this, yes. Some of this, yes, absolutely. Positive use of it, right?
Positive.
When this type of thing gets activated, when the dopamine takes off, but we're also feeling more cortisol that comes with it from the stress of these things, walling ourselves off, isolating ourselves, doom scrolling, whatever it might be, it creates things like we breathe more shallow, right? Which reduces the amount of oxygen that gets into our body and increases the strain on our bloodstream and on our heart, which over time is not a good thing, obviously. And it can shape our posture, right? Where we tense up, our bodies tense up, we tend to hunch over. It can actually reshape our spine, our muscles in our back. It can have all those types of effects, right? All of those things. And of course, when we isolate ourselves, we miss out on important things like mirroring with another person, right? Their moods, physical touch, the importance of a hug, right? Those things, we miss out on those things and we don't get the experience of emotional resonance. And there's books out there like The Body Keeps the Score, Wired for Connection, those types of things that dig into those things in depth. And I have found a lot of what is in those books to be true in my experience, right? That if we go for the convenience, I love that distinction you made. If we go for the convenience of something, we're not really being intentional about all the ways in which using technology could actually be useful for us. We're just assuming that technology itself, by its very existence, is good for us. And we're saying today that's not the case, right? Necessarily. So, all right. So that raises the question, Ashley. How do we reclaim real connection without picking up our phones and throwing them off a cliff? Right.
Well, don't do that.
Don't do that.
But maybe turn your phone off.
Yeah. There's some
and your Apple Watch and your iPad and this and that.
Yeah. Right. Right. Remind ourselves of some things. Right. And what we'll do is when we come back from our second break, we will spend the rest of the show talking about those practical things and put out a challenge to all of you to pick up one or two of these. And Ashley and I are going to do the same. So by the end of the show, we'll tell you which ones we're going to do.
We are?
Okay. Yeah, we are.
Oh,
yes, I've committed us. Yes.
Wow.
We talked about this, Ashley. We did. It was just a few days ago. Anyway, we'll come back. We'll see you here in a minute on Staying Power.
Hello, I'm Chris Erdman. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW, I sit down with inspiring entrepreneurs, creative minds, and game changers to uncover the real stories behind their business. On my show, Made of More, we explore the challenges that they've overcome, the breakthroughs that they've celebrated, and the mindset that drives them forward. If you're ready to unlock your full entrepreneurial potential, Made of More is the show for you, because here we know you are made of more. Every Wednesday at 8 a.m. on KKNW.
Welcome back to Staying Power. JD here with Ashley.
Hello.
Causing all sorts of trouble during the break.
I had some extra sass in my coffee.
Yeah, apparently. Well, that's okay. That's okay. It makes the show better every single time.
Oh, thanks.
All right, and welcome back to everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this conversation about tech and its uses and misuses. Hoping that this is kind of narrowing the field a little bit from the conversations that are out there. There's so many of them. But we never like to just talk about a problem on a show or an issue. We always like to be solution-oriented and possibility-oriented. And, of course, the types of things we're going to talk about will be unique to everybody. Not every suggestion we have is going to work for everyone. But if you're listening and you hear one of these things and go, oh, that's a good idea, pay attention to that. And then maybe pick that as something to try with technology over the next week and see what happens. And be sure, if you do that, to let us know what your experience was by reaching out to us at stayingpowershow@gmail.com.
By using technology.
By using technology. That's what we call irony. Okay. So we've broken this into a few different categories. Awareness practices, reframing convenience as a tool, some somatic stuff, and then talking about values.
Somatics.
So I know.
Always. You're so somatic.
It works.
It's great.
It works. It's good.
You're very in tune with it.
All right. So let's start with awareness practices. What do you got, Ashley?
Well, for being aware, like if you're really going to start being aware, you need to start with where you're at and bringing awareness to that moment. So that means a good question to ask yourself when you consciously think like, oh yeah, I'm using technology right now. It's like, am I using this tool as a tool? Or is it using me?
Oh, that's a good
thought.
one.
And I have done that, not verbatim those thoughts and words exactly, but I have in the past done this where I used to like at work on my lunch break, first thing I would do is like pull up my phone and scroll around and see what's new and whatnot. And then I started to think like, this doesn't make me actually feel super great. It's just distracting me from my reality of work, which I thought was giving me a break and changing my mood and whatnot. And depending on what I'm seeing and reading,
it might be.
It might be for good. It might be for not good. And I ended up starting to put my phone down and going for a walk and going outside and for like 30 to 40 minutes instead. And not using my phone on the walk. Can't tell you how many times people like fall off sidewalks and run into things because they're looking at their phone while they're walking.
Yep.
I put my phone away. I go on a walk. I look at people, I look at the dogs, I look at whatever, nature. I try and be very present.
Mm-hmm.
Just because I gave myself that one question. This is not my challenge for myself because I've already done that.
You've already done that.
But that's a good challenge for some people. If you don't, if you realize you're catching yourself on it, or you're scrolling around and refreshing the news page and reading it online.
Yeah.
Is there something else that you could be doing?
Right.
That might be a little more healthy.
Yeah.
And give your brain a break.
And what are you distracting yourself from?
Exactly.
That's the big question. What are you distracting yourself from? I ask myself this all the time. God, why am I wasting time on this? Okay, what is it about what I could be doing that I either don't want to do, or I'm avoiding, or I'm not aware of? What might it be? And so these are things we have to consciously do because it's very, very easy to do that. And so one of the things, too, they recommend is kind of a connection audit, I guess, on a daily basis. At the end of the day, like how many interactions did you have with people that were purely transactional on text, right? Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with transactional, right? That happens, right? We do it in business, do it in life. If we're coordinating meeting up with somebody, it may not be, right?
There are some things that's good to have in writing.
Absolutely.
To reference.
Absolutely, right. Those things. But how often are we mixing that up with connection with ourselves or with somebody else that's actually, I guess for lack of a better term, nourishing in a way and not transactional, and not judging yourself for having an all transactional day, right? But just being aware of it, right? I think is one, right? So those types of things. And really in the end, when we're talking about awareness, when you notice you're doing it, it's not about judging yourself or beating yourself up or even finding a new solution. If you find one, great. But just being aware of that you're doing it is going to start helping your body and your brain make adjustments to not do it as often, right? It's great in that sense. Okay, and then as we are big on this show, Ashley, we're big about reframing, right? Right. So, and you said it earlier, how can convenience be a tool, right, rather than our default setting? So many of us make it our default setting. It's just here to stay. We can't do anything about it. Therefore, it's default. That's a huge assumption and a story, right? So let's talk about some ways we can reframe tech into a tool and not just as a default. So what comes to mind for you with that?
Well, you did kind of mention some already, like basic ones of, using texting to coordinate and not to conversate and connect all the time.
That's cool.
Is that a word?
It is now. I think it is.
Oh my gosh.
I think it is actually a word.
It's a word. Okay. It's a word.
Conversate.
It is now.
It's good.
Thanks. But, and sometimes that is your only option. Sometimes that is the necessary way to do it. Or if you're trying to be thoughtful and send a nice little note out of the blue, that can be meaningful. That is a nice, meaningful way to use technology for somebody else. However, if it's people within the day-to-day or in the weeks-to-week that you connect with often, just use it to save the juicy stuff for when you get in person.
Yeah.
Save the really meaningful things so you can add eye contact, tonality, connection that way with it.
Yep.
Emails, scheduling, so maybe if you're a pen pal because you have like a friend over, on the other side of the world, that's how you communicate. But otherwise, save some of that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you can build good connection.
And coordinate this with the people that you're communicating with, because you can be intentional on both sides of this, and it's like an investment in each other. We hinted earlier, Ashley, that you and I have kind of a method of how we communicate. Now, you and I will have conversations over text, usually like when one of us is picking up the other one's not in the best of places. We know each other well enough that I think we're honest with each other in text. But what I've noticed, and I went and looked at this before the show, we only go to a certain point and then we go, you know what, we should talk about this in person, right? It's a longer story, but right now, I am feeling this way, right? And sometimes that can be a great use of it. Acknowledging something that might be uncomfortable. Yeah, you've said it to me many times on text. You did not seem all right when we talked earlier. What's going on with you? And that's a cue for me to go, okay, what is going on with me? And then I try to best of my ability to answer you correctly. Even if the answer is, I don't know. It's a whole mix of stuff. It happened yesterday, right? Where I was really irritated about something, right? And you picked up on it. And I said, I'm just frustrated because this, and this, but I also know that I'm assuming this. We'll talk more about it later, right? So we always hit that. So I think being honest in your connection, whether it's on email or whether it's on text, is great. But like you said, save the big stuff for the bigger moments. I think that's a big one.
And when emotions matter, it is so much more comfortable and I don't fault people for this because it is much more comfortable to send the message in black and white typed form than having to have that difficult, heartfelt conversation.
Or hear yourself say it out loud.
Yes. Sometimes that's the worst part, is admitting something out loud, hearing your own voice say it.
If I talk about it, I'm going to cry.
Yeah. And we don't want that, of course. That would be awkward. Hearing somebody else say something that's really emotionally jarring or painful. Sometimes we would rather just dump me over a text than, I don't want to have to hear this person I really care about say, like, the difficult things. I don't want to be with you tomorrow, whatever, And I would still say, even if it's difficult, when the emotions matter, it's best practice to say it in person.
Yep.
As best as you can.
As best you can. Or for people to hear it in your voice at bare minimum. So, things like, we have digital technology that allows for that.
Yeah.
Right?
Voice notes.
Voice notes. Voice notes are huge.
Yep.
I think it's a great way to go about it. You actually can hear, you can actually get some of the things we talked about earlier in terms of the effect in the body of hearing the person's voice, right? Instead. I think those are really powerful.
Well, how many times have we misunderstood someone's text message because you read it in the tonality that you imagined them having instead of the one that they actually had and intended to send it in?
Yeah, exactly. And we just automatically respond to that. Right. And I've shared a few stories on the show about times I've done that with people where it didn't go well. Right. My best self did not respond, and it caused challenges. Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you said earlier, calling instead of texting when the emotion matters, or getting on FaceTime and being intentional about it. And these days, setting up a time intentionally with somebody, say, hey, I would love to FaceTime with you at such and such a time on such and such a day. Can you do that? That's great, particularly if you can't be together in person in the same space. Another one that I know you and I are both big believers in, building rituals, kind of, if for lack of a better word, of real-time connection. So you have established, for your example, like no tech zones of time.
Oh, yes.
For yourself, practices like that, right? So if you do have those, so was I accurate before? They're like no tech is between morning and lunch, and then between lunch and dinner.
You are so accurate. And,
okay.
And that is not forced upon because of a work schedule or anything like that. Even on the weekends, I might go a little bit later in the morning, like doing stuff on my phone, and then I try to just park my phone somewhere and not have it on me. I do not wear an Apple Watch for the purpose of I don't want to be tracked everywhere I go and reachable everywhere I go. I don't have all those fancy screens and extracurriculars everywhere on purpose.
Yep. See, I have an Apple Watch. I have it for the health reasons, and then it was great the other day when I got in my car accident. I have it for those reasons. But when I am out on walks, or when I'm at my spin class, or when I'm doing stuff with other people, or go to the movies, or I'm at dinner with people, I turn off all the notifications. So you can easily do that, right? Easily. So it's not bothering me. So I don't feel that little buzz on and have the temptation to look at my watch.
It's really annoying when people do
that. It is. And, and also one thing I'm trying not to do lately is just have my phone on the table, even if it's upside down, because it gives the hint to the other person. At any point, I could pick that thing up and turn it face up and see what's there. And that means I'm not fully right where my feet are. There's that one as well. You mentioned walks. I think those times where you are tech free, that's the one I'm taking for next week.
Oh, okay.
That's the one I'm taking.
This is the one we're committing to.
Yeah. Okay. When yours comes up, just share it.
Okay.
But for me, I tend to, on my morning walks, I usually sometimes listen to an audiobook of some sort, which is not bad. But these days, it's about the only time I'm getting outside. So I'm wondering if I can shift listening to the audiobook to a time when I'm at home, maybe before I go to bed or something like that, instead of television or even reading a book, and spend a walk out like you do with no devices, right? And just enjoying the audio. That's what I'm going to do over the next week.
Okay.
I'm going to do that one.
I like that.
Okay.
I think I'm going to not remove, I'm going to shift the time on something.
Okay.
So usually in my line of work, I manage a lot of people. And there are times where I will check schedules and check in on everything first thing in the morning because I never know what's going to hit the fan. And if something hits the fan, it is on me to make some very quick decisions and let a lot of people know what's going on. I used to wait until after 6 a.m. to check. And then I started getting the habit as a lot of things were changing and being restructured, more things were hitting the fan. I'm like, you know what, the sooner I know, the better. So then I started checking in around like 5:30.
Oh.
And then at that point, my morning routine and my quiet time was kind of getting sabotaged because now my whole morning is taken up. So I'm going to shift that and not allow myself to check in with anything like that before 6 a.m.
Okay.
So I still get my uninterrupted, nice, quiet time in the morning.
And if any of you listening thinks that sounds really early, you're a night person. Like me, because that sounds really early to me. But that's great. And I know that will matter for you. I really do. And certainly in the last few minutes, there's a couple things. Somatic practices, we talk about breathing on this show a lot, grounding. Here's one that really does work. If you can get yourself in a mode where if you're going to be on a screen every 20 minutes or so, move away from the screen, and if at all possible, make eye contact with somebody. Seriously.
I know what you mean.
It works.
It just sounds funny.
It works. It sounds
staring
funny.
at people across the room.
Yeah, right.
Until they look back at you.
Right, till they look back. Make eye contact with somebody. Even if it's like you're sitting at work and you're looking at something, and after 20 minutes you look up and have a conversation with a coworker. Do it intentionally.
Yeah.
It actually wires the brain back to the state where where it want it to be, where we're connecting with people. Do that every 20 minutes. Or if you miss 20 minutes when you think of it, go do it and see what happens. If it's somebody in your household, somebody at work, somebody out in public, at the gym, it doesn't have to be somebody you know. It's just making eye contact, saying hello, that type of thing. And then finally, remember that all these conversations we're having about tech, what it is, what matters, all comes back to what our values are. To what degree are the values that you hold dear, that you want to live by, you think you live by, are they being served or sabotaged or undercut by your use of technology? And so if you take that inventory and you realize this is sabotaging these and these and these, you might actually find easier things to try out on your own, ideas we haven't talked about, that will help you immediately. And if you don't know what your values are, that's certainly something to look into as well. And Ashley and I do that kind of coaching all the time. That's kind of where we start with stuff. So you can find out more about that by listening to last week's episode of How to Find a Coach, and also reaching out to us at stayingpowershow@gmail.com, or reaching out to us on Instagram at our show site. Whew, good stuff, Ashley. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you so much. All right, so we're going to try those out for next week, and we will report back to all of you listeners on how that goes for us. Maybe that'll be hopefully our 2 minutes of triumph next week. If we do well
maybe.
Okay. Well, you have to come in next week to find out. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Staying Power. We'll be back next week. I am JD.
I'm Ashley.
We will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.